don't think anyone can prepare themselves for what stardom really brings. It didn't touch home with me, the whole fame thing, until I had a huge breakup and I wanted to just stop.
Hi, welcome back. Today we are going to be attempting to deep dive into hashtag Free Britney while I do my makeup like Queen Britney herself, while I attempt to recreate her iconic makeup, which just seems to be black liner or eyeshadow lining her eyes, almost raccoon-like. Love that for her. So before I start into the details of what the heck Free Britney is, I want to preface honestly the exact details behind Britney's conservatorship and her mental health currently are very tight-lipped. We don't know a lot, so this video is mostly speculation or just me relaying facts as to what potentially could be happening. It's really hard to navigate between facts and fiction. I tried really hard not to perpetuate any false narratives because I don't want any hate directed towards Britney or her team. That is not what I want out of this video. Basically, what I'm saying is that I tried to verify these things as much as I possibly could, as much as one person possibly can. So I tried to only include information that is included in more than one reputable news source, and yeah, let's get started. So from my research, I think the hashtag Free Britney movement started around 2009 after I think a superfan named Jordan Miller created the hashtag. Jordan Miller ran, and still runs I believe, a fan site for Britney that's called breatheheavy.com. So he began the movement in 2009 after it was alleged that Britney tried to get out of her conservatorship for the first time. So he created the hashtag in support. A little over a year ago, in late March, early April 2009, Britney released that she was checking into a mental health facility to take some me time, is what she called it, just to deal with some things that had happened in her life, which I'll describe later in more detail. But this sort of like resurged the Free Britney movement again after a decade from when it started. At this point, many fans and supporters of Britney came out again, stating that they believe that her conservators and like her handlers, as they call them, were manipulating her and micromanaging her.
I'm not perfect. I make mistakes every day, honey. I know, but I want to be a good person for me, but I think it's a huge pressure to think that you have to take the responsibility to be this role model.
We're going to start, before we get into more details of Britney's conservatorship, we're going to start with what a conservatorship is, because from my understanding there's not really such a thing where I live in Canada, or to the extent that it is in California where Britney is, where she has a conservatorship. A conservatorship is a sort of like legal guardianship that's enforced by the legal court in the United States. I think conservatorships are most popular, most often used in California from the research that I did, and that's where her dad filed for conservatorship originally. So essentially, a guardian or conservator is appointed for a person when they're seen or they're like gauged to be mentally or physically unfit due to some sort of disability or mental health issue that makes them like unable to take care of themselves, like their basic needs, like they're unable to provide shelter, food, stuff like that. It's most commonly seen in like older adults or like elderly when they have like onset dementia or later stages of that, when they literally like can't remember to do things and they become more of a danger to themselves. So like usually one of their kin or like their kids or someone else that is more mentally capable will take over take over guardianship. So they handle their like financial and basic assets because the person is not capable. So the sort of how much a conservator or guardian has control over in the conservatee's life is based on like a case-by-case basis. Obviously, like usually it's mostly financial things. So like the kid or the whoever's appointed guardian. Sometimes it's just like a third party that do that as a type of job. Will, like, handle all their financial assets, like do their taxes, stuff like that, or to buy things for them, handle their estate. But if a person is more like incapable, it will be more specific. So they'll handle more day-to-day things, like their personal life, things that are associated with that. Britney makeup's not hard. How she do it? So for a lot of people, it's really confusing because what we know about Britney's conservatorship is that it's like far-reaching. There's a lot of things that her conservators seem to control in her personal and financial realms of her life. So it's pretty confusing for people to grasp why Britney needs a conservatorship, because to the public she appears very like able-bodied and capable, especially when she's performing. You watch her in the Las Vegas residency that she had, and it's very confusing why she needs someone to like manage such basic things for her. She seems like a capable businesswoman on her own, and conservatorships are most often given or appointed when it's not likely that the person's going to get better. So like the dementia is going to worsen, or their condition will worsen or stay the same. For Britney, she's only 38, 37, late 30s, so it's confusing why they'd think that she would never get better. Britney and her father, Jamie Spears, are the most like infamous case of conservatorship for the Western public. Before I explain the little that I understand and grasp about the specifics of her conservatorship, we're going to do a little pop culture history so you can understand why Britney even got a conservatorship or was placed under one in the first place.
I sit there and I look back and I'm like, I'm a smart person. Like, what the hell was I thinking?
Someone close to Britney, I think it was her mom Lynn, said that Britney's mental health started deteriorating after her breakup with Justin Timberlake and the sort of media frenzy that brought. So that breakup was the early 2000s, and then by the mid 2000s it was very clear to the public that Britney had started struggling with substance abuse and just mental health problems in general. I'm not sure what substance Britney was taking. I don't know if that matters, but she did party and drink a lot of alcohol around this time. So Britney's mental health and substance issues were exacerbated when she filed for divorce from Kevin Federline in 2007. The pair had been married for around 3 years. They were only dating, I think, for a few months prior to that. He was her backup dancer. During their marriage, the pair had 2 kids together. I'm not going to say their names because they're minors and I don't think they should really be involved in this, but they're easy to Google if you really care. So it's reported that Britney was the one who filed for divorce in 2007, and then shortly after that, both Kevin and Britney filed for sole custody of their 2 kids, who were both toddlers, I believe, at the time. The year before, in 2006, Britney had been photographed with her 4-month-old firstborn sitting on her lap while she was driving the car, no seatbelt. At the time, she said that the reason she did that was to protect her kids or her kid and herself from aggressive paparazzi. And then for a few months after that, there were more incidents of Britney's parenting that were a little questionable. In the media, she started being labeled as a bad mom. In my opinion, she was really just struggling. The Los Angeles Department of Family Services investigated some of these claims. I'm not sure what came from that investigation, but for the time, Britney was still allowed to see her kids, it seemed. After she filed for divorce in 2007, she was seen partying a lot, including one time where she was photographed partying without underwear with Paris Hilton. In February 2007, I believe, Britney checks in to a rehab facility only to check out a day later. The following day after this rehab stint is we get the infamous Britney shears when Britney shaved her head. Someone had explained that the reason Britney shaved her head was because someone told her that they could use hair follicles to test for drugs or alcohol in her system, and at the time she was struggling with the custody battle, so I guess she didn't want anyone to use it to test her hair, so that is allegedly why Britney shaved her head in 2007. Shortly after that, she checked into a different rehab, only to check out of that one a day later again. At this time, Kevin files for an emergency hearing for the custody of their kids kids because Britney is sort of out of control. So when Britney hears this news, she checks back into that same rehab facility and completes a 30-day program. After Britney completes the 30-day rehab program, it was reported that her and Kevin reached a 50-50 sort of stance on everything pertaining to their divorce and the custody battle. I have no idea what that means, but that's what I saw reported. In the month of July 2007, Britney has 2 separate altercations with paparazzo. One where her security guard is charged with assault, and then the other one is when Britney attacks a photographer, paparazzi, with an umbrella. She attacked him in his car. The divorce between Kevin and Britney is finalized on July 30th, and then shortly after the divorce is finalized, Kevin Federline sues for primary custody of the boys. On September 17th, Kevin and Britney go to court. The judge orders both of them to refrain from doing drugs or drinking alcohol in the presence of their children, and also 12 hours before they're supposed to see their children. The judge only mandates Britney to undergo random drug testing 2 times a week. So various custody and criminal trials for Britney continuing over the next few months, including some criminal charges she faced for a hit and run and driving on a suspended license when she hit a parked car in a parking lot in August and then fled the scene. So in early October, Kevin is granted primary custody of the kids, and then Britney is granted visitation rights. On January 3rd, 2008, Britney is placed under an involuntary 5150 hold, which is basically a psychiatric hold that anyone can call on anyone else in the States when they are aged to be a danger to themselves or other people. I think it's for 48 hours. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Anyways, Britney is placed under this 5150 after a 3-hour custody standoff with Kevin, where she was supposed to give the kids to Kevin, but instead she locked herself and her sons in a bathroom for 3 hours. And then it was said that Britney was on an unknown substance at the time. After this event, her visitation rights for the boys are suspended. And then towards the end of January, she is put under another 5150 hold. I'm not sure for what this time, but she is seen taken out of her mansion on a stretcher, and then she's sent to a nearby hospital. So the following day, I think that was on January 31st, if I'm not mistaken, the following day is when her father, Jamie Spears, files for conservatorship over Britney. Jamie is then made the sole conservator over her personal affairs, and then with another attorney, he is co-conservators over her financial assets and her estate. This is supposed to be a temporary thing, but Britney is still under this conservatorship 13 years later.
I had let certain people into my life that were just bad people. And I was very guarded at first, but then I went to a point where I ended up letting them in because I was lonely or whatever the fact, and I really paid the consequences for that.
So then there's the case of Sam Lutfi. I don't know, who cares? He sounds awful. Allegedly. Don't sue me. So around this time when Britney is under the conservatorship, I'll go over the details a little bit later, but essentially her dad can take out restraining orders on behalf of Britney against people. So her conservators file for a restraining order against this guy named Sam Lutfi, and then in a deposition for this case, her mom, Lynn Spears, said that Sam was extremely abusive towards Britney. It is unclear as to what his relationship is with Britney. He says that he was her acting manager for a year, but then the Britney Spears camp denies that he was ever her manager and that he was just a friend that lived with Britney. So Lynn, in her deposition, states that Sam moved into Britney's house in October 2007. Lynn stated that Sam drugged Britney, cut her phone lines, removed her cell phone chargers, yelled at her, and tried to control her financial affairs. I also want to note that Sam has restraining orders from other people for different instances, so just so you kind of understand who this guy is. The restraining order history is notable because Sam has sort of tried to become a major force in the Free Britney movement, but like his motives are very unclear if he is trying to help Britney or hurt Britney because of his history with her. For his part in the Free Britney movement, Sam has alleged that the conservatorship has only been created so Jamie and other people could control Britney's assets and her finances. And then in June 2019, Jamie brought Sam back to court for another restraining order. So this restraining order would bar Sam from contacting Britney or anyone in her family or team, and also making disparaging comments online about Britney. Jamie alleged that Sam was trying to incite Britney fans online against him and the other conservators and her team under the Free Britney hashtag. Britney's dad was fearful that this sort of incitement would get in the way of the conservatorship, and that was what he believed Sam's motives were. Jamie has stated multiple times that he believes the conservatorship saved Britney's life. So during the trial, Sam admitted that he did contact Britney's mother, Lynn, and her brother-in-law, James Watson, who's married to Jamie Lynn Spears, which I never realized Jamie Lynn Spears was named after both of her parents until right now, so love that for her. He said he contacted Lynn after she reportedly liked several tweets about the Free Britney movement, and then I'll put the receipts for that up here, and then I'll link where I got those receipts below. The things that Lynn allegedly liked on Instagram basically insinuated that she was in need of money so she could help Britney out with conservatorship and be more involved. Sam said he sent Lynn money, to which she promptly returned the money that he sent her. Sam testified that him and Lynn, before this restraining order process, had a really great relationship, which really doesn't make sense to me because Lynn testified in the initial restraining order case about all these horrible things that Sam did to his daughter, so I don't know why you'd have a great relationship with someone who drugged your daughter. It doesn't make sense. So I don't know if he's telling the truth on that one. Britney's camp believes that the purpose of Sam texting Lynn like salacious things about the conservatorship was to disrupt the conservatorship. So ultimately, Judge Brenda Penny awarded Britney's team and Jamie a 5-year restraining order against Sam. But there's some points I want to note about things that happened during this trial that are interesting. During, I think, Sam's lawyers were interrogating Jamie. Jamie admitted that him and Britney had always had a strained relationship, which is interesting for me to note. And then Sam also said that Britney has contacted him several times over the last 10 years to complain about the conservatorship. I don't know if he gave any receipts. The judge for the trial ultimately struck that from the record, so perhaps he didn't have any evidence that this happened, but if it did, that's very interesting. Anyways, the Superior Court Judge Brenda Penny, who was in charge of this restraining order case, is also the current judge that is hearing Britney's conservatorship cases. I couldn't find any information online about her other than that she's a registered Democrat. Do with that what you will.
If I wasn't under the restraints that I'm under right now, I'd feel so liberated. And when I tell them the way I feel, it's like they hear me, but they're really not listening.
So now I'm going to talk briefly about this TikTok phenomenon recently that is the Free Britney, the resurgence of the Free Britney movement that brought me to doing this research into the topic. So the online conspiracy almost theories about the Free Britney movement are very confusing and convoluted. There's like 1,000,002 allegations. So I'm going to link below a thread that seems to be the most coherent that I found on Twitter. So from what I gathered, the common theme between the allegations seem to be that Britney Spears and perhaps hundreds of others behind the scenes are controlling Britney's life through the conservatorship. I've seen claims that they think Britney is being over-medicated to try to legitimize why she'd need a conservatorship to like make her act crazier, for lack of a better term, on social media and stuff. If you follow Britney, you'll know what I'm talking about her Instagram post. People also believe that her social media, her Instagram, is being closely monitored, and then that they're like allegedly posting things to her social media to also make her seem crazier. And there's a newer claim that a person online, I'll link the receipt below, has alleged that originally in 2008, Jamie told the court that Britney was suffering with dementia to have further reach or further control in her conservatorship, because usually the cases that have a more controlling or more micromanaging conservatorship are those that involve dementia or patients with dementia. Which, like, you would have to prove this in court, so I don't know how this point makes sense, because he would have to prove that in court that she has dementia, unless, like, there's some doctors in on the, or Britney actually has dementia. I don't know. It's just a conspiracy theory. I'll link the receipt below, the alleged court document that Jamie filed. There's also allegations about Britney's business manager, Lou Taylor. They believe that she was the mastermind that convinced Jamie to get the conservatorship in the first place. She has sued people for saying this, so I'm not going to go further into that, but you can find it if you look it up online or on Twitter. So from 2013 to 2017, Britney had a 4-year residency in Las Vegas. Her residency was uber successful, and she planned to return, I believe, in early 2019 to continue her residency. This time it was a different show format called Britney Domination. In January 2019, Britney announced online that she was canceling the Domination residency indefinitely. Britney cited that her father Jamie had almost died a few months prior, and that is why she was postponing the residency. Fans became concerned about Britney's mental health after she canceled this residency, and then they grew even more concerned after on April 3rd, 2019, Britney announced that she was going to enter herself into a treatment facility to take some me time. So later on, people around Britney said that the reason why Britney canceled Domination was because that there were signs that her mental health was worsening again as a result of a few stressful things that happened in her life or that were happening. One of them was that just before Jamie got sick, her medication had stopped working, so her doctors were working on switching them around and trying to find a new sort of mix that works for her and stabilizes her. And then at that time when they were trying to do that, in October or November 2018, I think it was November, Jamie's colon ruptured and he almost died. So manager Larry Rudolph said that those two events caused Britney to start displaying signs that her mental health was worsening. She stopped showing up for rehearsals. She started sleeping like all day. So she and her team decided to cancel indefinitely. There is speculation that Jamie actually forced Britney into treatment in January 2019, not March. Not that she went of her own volition in March or at the end of March, and that Britney was actually refusing to take her meds. It wasn't that they had stopped working, it was that she was refusing and Jamie was trying to force her to take her meds. That's a speculation. In mid-April, a podcast called Britney's Gram that usually analyzes the weird things she posts on Instagram had an emergency episode. The podcast is hosted by two female comedians, Tess Barker and Barbara Gray. They stated that they believed that Britney was being micromanaged and controlled under her conservatorship. Then they played a voicemail from an alleged paralegal who said he had worked with one of the attorneys involved in Britney's conservatorship. I will play that excerpt now, and I'll link it below.
Hi there. I cannot disclose who I am. I just heard the latest episode. You guys are onto something. I used to be a paralegal for an attorney that worked with Britney's conservatorship. I am no longer with them. And what is happening is disturbing, to say the least. So, basically, Britney was in rehearsals for Domination. It came to Jamie's attention, Britney Spears, that Britney was not taking her medication as prescribed. She was missing a lot of doses and just full on not taking them. So they got her to the doctor. The doctor said, okay, if you don't want these medications, let's get you on a new one. Well, she refused to take the new one. So Jamie said, either you take this medication or the show's off, and I'm pulling my support and you can't do it. Britney did not follow Jamie's instructions, and so he was true to his word. He pulled the show. He verbatim said, blame it on my illness. And that's when we get the early January Instagram. Fast forward a couple days, Britney's still not following through with her medication. And as you guys have mentioned, she is seen with Sam driving. A big no-no on, it's a big rule that she broke. Britney has been in the mental facility since mid-January. Of course, the statement yesterday said she entered last week. That is not true. She's been in there since mid-January. And there is no timeline. Granted, I've been gone. I haven't worked at the company or at the firm for about a little over 2 weeks now, but there is no end particularly in sight for this stay at this mental facility to end. She did not want to go. She, I of course, I'm just a paralegal. I haven't had any contact with her, but from what I understand, this was not a decision she made at all.
The two girls, or the two podcasters, said that they vetted him and that his credentials checked out, but Britney's camp has said they think he's an imposter because they've never been able to locate or verify who he is. They also deny all the allegations that this guy made on the podcast. Now I'm going to talk about the specifics of Britney's conservatorship, or what's available to the public. It's mostly a private matter that is barred from the public. Like, Britney or her team has never released what her mental health diagnosis actually is. I've seen reports that she's bipolar, but she's never verified this, so I'm not saying that. In the same vein, it's never been released exactly the extent of the conservatorship.
Even when you go to jail, there's always the time that you know that you're going to get out, you know. But in this situation, it's never ending. There's no excitement. There's no passion.
These are the terms of the conservatorship that I found online that seem to be verified by more than one reputable news outlet, so I'm going to repeat them now. I don't want to spread false information about the other allegations about the conservatorship. Apparently, under the conservatorship, I'm going to read this off. Jamie can file restraining orders on behalf of Britney against people he deems as a danger to her mental health. He can sell her property. She doesn't have an email address currently. She needs his permission to get married. Jamie can revoke all power of attorney from Britney. He can restrict who visits her at her house. This one is supposed to prevent people from taking advantage of her, pressuring her to relapse, like what happened back in 2007, 2008. And then she can only pursue business activities such as performing tours, acting, videos, sponsorships, etc. that are approved by her medical team. So the issue about if Britney can drive or not without permission is very confusing. There was like differing accounts of what the conservatorship says about Britney driving, if it says anything at all. So some say that Britney can't drive without permission. Some say that Britney can't drive at all. Some say that Britney has to drive with the presence of a security guard or someone in the passenger seat. I don't know. I can't verify any of that, so that one's up in the air. Jamie can also negotiate business opportunities on behalf of Britney. And then each year, all her financial records need to be presented to the court by the attorney Wallet and Jamie. Even like minor transactions need to be accounted for in the court. Britney's financial affairs are like micromanaged essentially. She's reportedly allowed to spend money on like tiny things as she wishes, and she does seem to live a pretty lavish lifestyle, so it doesn't look like she's suffering in that respect. To me, I don't know, but it's her net worth versus her earnings over the past 10 years don't seem to align. There seems to be some discrepancies, which also sort of add fuels to the fire of the conspiracy theories that these men or these people are controlling Britney for her money. So as of 2018, Britney's net worth was around $59 million, and then for her report, it was said that she spent $400,000 on living expenses and then $66,000 on household supplies at places like Target. She spent $1.1 million on legal fees that year, including conservatorship fees. It is said that in 2018, her father Jamie was paid $128,000 for his role as her conservator. This point is a little weird, like it's a little confusing why a conservator is paid, especially if it's her father. But then again, if it takes up so much time and he's not able to work outside of that, I get why he would be paid, but it is a pretty large amount for her father to be paid. I'm not sure. Maybe let me know your thoughts of what you think about him getting paid to be her conservator. Anyways, I read a Forbes article that highlighted the discrepancies between Britney's alleged earnings and her net worth. Britney's net worth the past 10 years has always remained in the $50 million bracket, but Forbes reported that as of 2016, over her career, she had earned $672 million. So unless she spends things out her hoo-ha, I don't know where all the money's going. And then in relation to the theory that Britney's conservators are forcibly medicating her, her manager Larry Rudolph stated that conservators can't force medication on a conservatee and they can't force them to go into treatment. I also saw it reported somewhere that Britney dated this guy from around 2013 to 2014. His name was David Lucato. Anyways, he said that he didn't know why Britney needed a conservator for her personal affairs, and he said that anyone could see this if they watched how she took care of her kids. So I just wanted to put that point in there because I thought it was interesting. So the co-conservator for Britney's estate for over 10 years. His name was Wallet. I forget his first name. His last name's Wallet. Sorry. He was an attorney. He resigned from his position in managing her estate in March 2019 because he said the conservatorship engaged in numerous ongoing business activities that required immediate attention. And then he also said that if he didn't resign immediately, Britney would suffer substantial detriment, irreparable harm, and immediate danger. Seems sketchy to me. No one knows what he's saying or what he means by this. Some people theorize that him and Jamie don't see eye to eye on things involving her conservatorship, but it's really scary to me that he's saying that like Britney could potentially have like irreparable harm or be in danger. It's very concerning. He has also stated that he has prevented Britney from receiving drugs from hundreds of people over the last 10 years and has prevented her from going into a financial crisis. Only a few months earlier in November, Wallet had been granted a raise for his position in Britney's conservatorship and just legal things of $426,000 annually. What? Almost 4 times the amount that Jamie gets, so that's interesting. Now we're going to talk about the May 2019 hearing. 2019. So on May 10th, 2019, Britney was accompanied by her mom to attend a hearing about her conservatorship. This is really rare for Britney because she usually doesn't attend these hearings, which is interesting to me that she doesn't attend them. It is reported that Lynn at this hearing asked the judge to be included in all matters regarding Britney's conservatorship and her medical records. And then there was a lot of speculation. It's not confirmed because the hearing is closed to the public, but there's a lot of speculation that Britney asked to either be let out completely of the conservatorship or for the restrictions to be eased because Barbara Penny, the judge, ordered an evaluation for Britney's competence, which she would need an evaluation to prove that she is competent to get out of the conservatorship. This is reportedly the second time that Britney has tried to get out of the conservatorship if she did request it. The first time was back in 2009 when she tried allegedly to hire an attorney to get her out of the conservatorship, and Britney under the conservatorship isn't allowed to hire her own attorneys. A couple weeks after this hearing on May 22nd, Jamie petitioned the court to extend Britney's conservatorship to other states outside of California, including Louisiana, Hawaii, and Florida. There's a lot of sketchy things surrounding Jamie Spears. Allegedly, don't sue me. Please, Jamie. I'm poor.
Does your dad have a lot of opinions about what you do?
Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. I mean, not like
disapproving?
with some things.
In September 2019, Jamie Spears asked to step down as the conservator for her personal affairs, citing medical issues or ongoing health issues. There's some speculation that Jamie actually stepped down because of a recent altercation with Britney's kids. In August, the previous month, Kevin Federline sought a restraining order on behalf of their two sons against Jamie Spears for an alleged altercation that happened when Britney had brought the boys over to visit at Jamie's house. It is reported that Jamie, or is alleged by Kevin, that Jamie became enraged at, I think it was the eldest son, and he broke a door down to get to him and then shook him violently. No criminal charges were ever brought against Jamie for this incident, citing insufficient evidence. Some reports say that this altercation affected Britney's custodial rights against or for her sons, but I can't 100% verify those claims either. From what I gathered, since 2018, Britney has had 30% custody and Kevin has 70%, but she gets unsupervised access to her kids during that 30%. Then I saw some reports that after the altercation with Jamie, this can't be verified by the way, but after the altercation with Jamie, that her custody was reduced to 10% temporarily with supervised visits. Britney and her dad, Jamie, have had a tense relationship for most of their life, or most of her life. In 2008, Britney's mom, who divorced her dad in 2002, wrote a memoir about Britney and her family, in which she talks about how the family had a very tough time growing up because of Jamie Spears' erratic behavior caused by his alleged alcoholism. It's reported that Jamie has been sober since 2003. And then there's the incident where Britney's youngest son went on Instagram Live. He asked how he feels about the Free Britney movement. I don't even think this kid really understands what it is because all he says is, I don't know. So I don't think he knows what that is. And then he's asked about how he feels about his grandfather Jamie, and to which he says, and I quote, this is a 13-year-old kid by the way, he's a pretty big dick, he can go die. Like, please remember that this is a 13-year-old kid. I'm not gonna link the video below because he's a minor, but you can find it with a Google search. He's very unfiltered in his thoughts, obviously, in this live, and he might not be aware of all the intricacies of the conservatorship, so I wouldn't take this as a smoking gun. Maybe he just hates his grandpa. People hate their family. It's fine. Doesn't necessarily mean he's the worst person ever. It could, but not necessarily. Maybe Jamie is a dick. Britney's son also said when he was asked that he really did like his dad and Britney's longtime boyfriend Sam. He said Sam's really nice, which is nice to know that the kids like Sam. When Jamie stepped down in September 2019, he planned apparently to retake that position over again in January 2020, but as of now he's still not the conservator for her personal affairs. He's only like partially the conservator for her financial affairs because he wasn't allowed to step down in that aspect. So this lady called Jody Montgomery took over Jamie's position as the conservator of Britney's personal affairs. Give me a sign. So Jody Montgomery has been Britney's care manager since 2018, and essentially as a care manager, Jody essentially assesses Britney's needs and then communicates with the medical team as to what they need to do as a care plan for Britney. It's been reported that this position has been extended when Jody was appointed as her conservator. So now Jody has full access to all of Britney's medical and psychiatric records. She can contact Britney's doctors anytime she wants. She manages Britney's security team. She enforces and can file restraining orders, and she controls or she can limit who visits Britney. Britney was supposed to have a hearing in April about the conservatorship, because Jody is only supposed to be the conservator temporarily. They're supposed to have a meeting in April to reassess, but because of COVID-19, that's been postponed, and the next trial or the next hearing is August 22nd, so I guess we'll see what happens then.
It's really weird. Like, I enjoy my life and I love what I do, but at the same time, even though we didn't have that much then, I was really happy. Like, I'm looking back right now, just the simplicity of life. It was very nice.
In Britney's 2008 documentary, there was a TV documentary, I believe, there's a scene where it is believed that Britney is discussing her conservatorship. It's not verified. She talks about how she let someone dangerous into her life. Perhaps she's talking about Sam Lutfi, she doesn't specify, because she was lonely and that she is still suffering the consequences of making that mistake. So people interpreted this to mean that she's still suffering under the conservatorship because she made a mistake. Then she talks about, I think it's in a deleted scene, about how even people in jail know how long their sentence is. They know when they're going to get out of jail, but she feels like she never knows when she's going to get out. Also, I'm not saying for sure that Britney's talking about the conservatorship in these clips. I'll link them below, but just some food for thought if she is. It's also like maybe her mind has changed and about the conservatorship if she is talking about it, because that clip was over 10 years ago and she hasn't really spoken publicly about the conservatorship since then. If she is talking about the conservatorship in those clips, it's really heartbreaking to hear her talk like that. I think it's really difficult just for people in general to consolidate that someone like Britney could have such severe mental health problems that they need someone to essentially control a lot of aspects of their life. You see this almost public facade of who Britney Spears is. She's this beautiful, talented performer. She seems very intelligent. She's able to keep up in dance numbers and stuff like that. So why would Britney need a conservatorship? That seems to be the main consensus about people that are concerned about her. This entire situation sort of gives rise to ethical issues for me. Like, should a lot of someone's rights be taken away as harm reduction? Is that ethical? Should we just let people sort of do what they want and have that freedom even though they could potentially harm themselves? And is it even ethical to assume so much of a person's freedom or rights just because they suffer with mental health issues? I don't know. I read an article in Forbes that basically detailed how sort of exploitative conservatorships and guardianships can be. There's been multiple cases where a conservator exploits the person, and since a lot of these people are more vulnerable to being exploited, it's a little bit easier if it goes unchecked. And it's also really difficult to challenge a conservatorship or have it terminated when it's been brought upon you, which is really scary. Like, if I imagine myself in that position, that's horrifying. I've had my own mental health struggles, and I've done things in my life that were probably harmful to me and put myself in danger, but I sort of had that free will to continue to make those decisions if I wanted to, and that helps me grow from it and sort of gain the autonomy I needed to realize that I cannot continue to act like that or it will harm me. Britney seems to not be allowed the same room to make those mistakes anymore after what happened in 2008. And perhaps the conservatorship did save Britney's life and she needed this, but who knows? There's a lot of other people in pop culture and celebrities in pop culture that have similar breakdowns and have substance abuse issues or mental health issues, and they're not placed under restrictions like this. But like, we also as the public don't know the full depth of what Britney Spears' mental health issues are, so I don't think we can conclusively say whether or not she needs them. I don't think that the public should have access, unless Britney herself wants this information to be public, about her diagnosis, because like, just look back 10 years ago when you see how the public treated her, like Britney Spears, and making fun of her mental breakdown. Maybe the public is more sympathetic, but there's a lot of people that would still be very awful. So I think it's Britney's prerogative to keep that secretive. It's a very troubling situation to like know that someone who I grew up with sort of doesn't have the autonomy that I do. I really hope that if Britney does want out of the conservatorship, that she is heard, she is being listened to, and that she can get out. That's all for the deep dive into hashtag Free Britney. It's still very confusing. There's a lot of information circulating online. It's really difficult to navigate, and I did a few days of like very extensive research and it's still very confusing to me. Let me know your thoughts below. Comment, like, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye.